What is the truth in the stories we are told? We've been given a story of a world fueled by separation. We've become separate from one another, separate from the earth, ultimately separate from the true nature of ourselves. It's time we learn the truth. It's time you rewrite your story. It's time to realign with who it is that you really are. This is the fifth dimension.
You are infinite and eternal. We are infinite and eternal.
Our natural essence, we could say, is simply being.
We have this awakening coming together as a perfect storm.
We're ready for this. We have the capacity inside. We just got to find that.
All right, everybody, welcome on into the Fifth Dimension podcast. And for today's show, I am joined by the Honorable Maxime Bernier, who is the head of the People's Party of Canada. Maxime, thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to have that opportunity. And, I always appreciate to have more visibility with people that across the country or in other countries that are sharing our values and our policies.
Definitely, absolutely. And I resonate a lot with the policies of the People's Party of Canada. And like I mentioned before we even hopped on, I want to first congratulate you on the successful campaign. I know you obviously didn't become the prime minister, but I think there was some serious momentum that was gained for the ideas. And, that's really where I'd like to start and asking you about is, we've seen the government infringement taking place all over the world. And I do think there is still a very real threat of that lingering in the background. Maybe the roots of how that was able to take place hasn't necessarily been addressed at the governmental level. But, what do you think in terms of looking forward? What freedom is going to hold for people in Canada, people around the world? And where does the PPC stand on freedom and civil liberties, and why you think the government have really been able to get away with a lot of what's taken place over the last 2 years?
Yes, so there's a lot there. So first, we can start by the People's Party of Canada. We created that party 3 years ago in 2018. Based on 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And all our policies are in line with these principles. So that's important for us. That's why I'm always saying that we are doing politics differently, because we don't try to tell you what you want to hear, what is popular today. The platform, the electoral platform of the People's Party of Canada is the same, and it will always be the same. We had our first election in 2019. We ran on a very strong freedom platform. We had, for the first time, a new political party in Canada, 1.6% of the vote. After that, the second election, the last one, in last September 2021, we were successful to grow our movement to 5%. And now, if you look at the polls across the country in Canada, we are around 8-10%. So that's going very well. We are growing very fast. And the goal for the next election in Canada, that may be in 2025, we'll see, is to have a candidate in every riding in this country, and being able to have candidates elected, starting by myself as the leader of the People's Party of Canada. And I believe we will have a real freedom voice in Parliament. Actually, you're right saying that all across the world, in different countries, there's a lot of socialism and a big government that is intervening in our day-to-day life. And it's happening in Europe. It's happening in certain states in the US, California, New York. You have a big government Uh, and the government is bigger than it was in Canada and also in America, in US, and in Europe after COVID-19, because all these governments spend a lot of money that they didn't have, huge debt, huge deficit, to give money to people to ask them to stay at home. Actually, in other states in the US, like South Dakota, like Texas, Florida, they decided to stay open, and I think that was the best decision. We need to fight against that vision of a big fat government that will tell you what to do every time in your day-to-day life. And we at the PPC, at the People's Party of Canada, we believe in individual freedom, like I said, but we have faith in people. We have faith that you have the ability, the dignity, and the right to make your own decisions and determine your own destiny. So we believe at a smaller government in Ottawa that will respect taxpayers, that will respect the Constitution, our Constitution in Canada, that and if you respect the Constitution, you will have a radical decentralization. And I believe it's good when you have decentralization, when you have competition in between states or competition in between provinces in Canada. That's always better for citizens. So yes, we are in a socialist era right now in North America, in Europe, and you have people at the World Economic Forum, at the UN, at the World Health Organization, that think that they know better than you, than the citizen. And they are promoting socialism, they are promoting big government. And that's why, the tendency is there. And when you have an election, usually politicians will try to buy votes by promoting more spending, by creating more programs, and you have a bigger state in the end. So that's happening in Canada, but that's happening in other countries. We like at the last election, we were the only party in Canada that said we will balance the budget in 4 years, and after that we will lower taxes. We did not promise any more spending. Actually, we did the opposite. We said that we will cut spending, and we have to understand that right now, because of that spending all across the country and in the US, you have that inflation. When a government is spending money that they don't have, usually that is the central bank who's buying these bonds and creating money out of thin air. When you have more money chasing fewer goods, you have inflation, and inflation is a indirect tax. So the inflation in Canada, it's 6.7%. I believe in US it's about 8.2 or something like that. And so if your salary does not increase by 8.2 this year, you are poor. And inflation is a very regressive tax. It is hurting the most vulnerable people, the middle class. So the only way to fight that inflation is to be sure to have a fiscally responsible government in Ottawa and also in other countries that will balance the budget, that will cut the spending and cut taxes. So answering your question about what is happening and why we have these big fat government almost everywhere in the Western world, it's because politicians like to give you something, and they are telling you that they are giving you something for nothing. But we know that there's nothing like a free lunch. Now we are paying for all these spending.
Right. No, definitely. And I was going to say, I remember you saying well before it was the inflation has hit a point now where it's obviously very noticeable, but you were talking about this last year, and you were talking about the need for balancing the budget. So, your vision for the future, like it was very clear what was coming. And, a lot of think I remember Trudeau even saying at one point, no, he didn't have an economic policy. They didn't it didn't discuss those things, you know. So, but I think this leads great into one of the core tenets and what I've learned from the last couple of years and why I really resonate with People's Party of Canada is that idea of self-responsibility, right? And I think people, you know, our way of governing in this sort of socialist ideal, it really contradicts self-responsibility. But I think, you know, looking at, you know, the government infringements and looking at freedom, you know, I look at the truckers convoy, for example, and how successful that was, because that was people taking the self-responsibility to demand freedom and, you know, saying that we are going to be free and the government can't, you know, impose their will upon that. I know there are still a few restrictions. I have a few friends who in Canada who are unvaccinated and they can't fly out of the country. You know, there's still restrictions that they face. You know, how does self-responsibility really play into removing the other infringements and also ensuring that they don't come back? And, you know, I think maybe we could learn a few lessons from the truckers when answering that question.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Speaking about the truckers and saying that they gave us hope because when that happened in January and February of this year, you know, we had draconian measures all across the country in Canada in different provinces. And so the truckers said enough is enough, because all these draconian measures were not based on the science, were not based on common sense, were not based on logic, because after 2 years, we know now that everybody can have the virus and catch the virus and spread the virus, vaccinated people and unvaccinated people. So when Trudeau said to the truckers, you know, if you want to cross the border from US coming to Canada, you'll need to be double vax. But also don't forget, these truckers were essential workers in the beginning of the pandemic when we didn't have a vaccine. And they were the only one that was able at that time to travel across the country and to travel across the border from the state. And they were not putting anybody in danger. And now the Trudeau government said to the truckers, yeah, no, you're putting Canadians in danger if you don't have your 2 shots. And so that was ridiculous, because these truckers are usually alone in their truck. So all that was so against the common sense that truckers said, you know, enough is enough, and vaccinated one and unvaccinated one. And they were right. And they said, you know, we must have a protest. We must do something. And that protest was very successful. I was there 3 weekends and delivered speeches over there. And I can tell you that because of them, after that, we had Canadian provinces that just left all their restrictions. Now we still have restrictions at the federal level. As a politician, I cannot travel across the country by plane, like you said, because I'm not vaccinated. That's illogic and that's unfair, because all the other leaders can travel by plane and I cannot. And my job is to be on the ground, to meet people. Actually, I will do a road trip in Atlantic Canada, in New Brunswick, PEI, and Nova Scotia for 3 weeks in the beginning of May. I think it's important, but we still have restrictions at the federal level, and there's no logic for that. So the truckers gave us hope, and they built something. And actually, not only in Canada, but in US, in Europe, you had other Freedom Convoy. That was great and nice to see that.
Right. No, definitely. And that movement has definitely spread. I mean, you look at the United States, the restrictions are pretty much all gone. And look at other countries and New Zealand and Australia, there's still some, but they're slowly but surely, I think people are realizing the importance of freedom despite having COVID pandemic, right? I mean, it's one of those things you have to learn to live with, and you can't live in fear. Otherwise, you're going to inevitably create a nanny state, if you will, where then they're going to take care of you at every opportunity. And that's
Yeah.
really what we've seen.
Oh, we have in Canada right now a nanny state at the federal level, at the provincial level, also big government, and I believe that people must look at it and learn from these the two past years, 2020, 2021. And when politicians are telling you what you must do, I believe that people must question always that. People must be free to do what they want to do. Actually, politicians were very efficient because they used the propaganda machine. They spend a lot of money in Canada. They spend by advertising and all across the country. Fear was very efficient. And that's why I believe the population was following the government. But I believe in the near future, if they want to impose more draconian measures next winter, because we have, I don't know, the sixth variant of the COVID-19, I believe that people will be more aware, and it would be tougher for government to infringe our freedoms and our rights.
No, right, definitely. And that's what the idea I'm getting as well, because we've seen that the unvaccinated aren't dying in more numbers than the vaccinated, and they don't spread the disease. And a lot of the restrictions, they just don't make sense. And I think that awareness is growing despite sort of the media blackout. I mean, I know you weren't allowed in the debate despite being, I believe it was in third place in the polling. You weren't allowed in the actual prime minister debate. There's really a silencing of the narrative still, despite the fact that the evidence is very clear in sort of what direction it points to. Do you have any concerns about sort of the media or the direction that the government is still going to attempt to move in terms of possible infringements, and what citizens can actually do to, stay empowered and stay self-responsible? Does it just come down to the simple decisions of, I'm not going to wear a mask, or I'm not going to follow this rule? Like, what is sort of the action steps that people can take to continue ensuring that their liberties are protected?
Yeah, I believe, and I said that at a rally, I think I was in Montreal during COVID-19, and I said to the crowd, I said to people, you must think at doing civil disobedience, because when you have rules or regulation that are not based on science and on common sense, and they're not efficient at fighting a virus, and you're saying to people, you cannot go to a restaurant, you have to stay at home after 8:00 p.m. That's ridiculous. And I said, people, come and do some protests with us. If we increase the number of people that are ready to protest, ready to do what they want to do, that will help. Actually, we were successful to change the public opinion in Canada. In the beginning of the pandemic, I believe we were maybe only 5% against these draconian measures. And at the end of that pandemic, after 2 years, that movement grew to maybe 10, 15%. And that's why we can have an impact. We, as an individual, if we do what we think is good for us, you must be, the media, like you said, in Canada, in US, the media, you cannot trust these mainstream media anymore. They have a narrative, and if you don't fit in that narrative, you won't be able to be present in the media. That's the case of my case personally. Like you said, I did better than the Green Party of Canada at the last election. The Green had only 2%. We had 5%. And the Green was part in the debate, in the national debates with the leaders. I was not part of that. I'm supposed to be part of it at the next general election because I had more than 4% of the vote with 5%. And that will make a difference. I'll be able to reach to more people. But that being said, the propaganda coming from the media, that was huge. And people must be able to do their research to confront the media and not always turning on the TV and believing everything that the media will tell you. Be more critic toward the media, and you'll be more independent also. It's the same thing in Canada with the war in Ukraine right now. I'm not pro-Putin, I'm not pro-Russia. Putin said in the beginning of that war, he doesn't want to have a NATO base in Ukraine. And actually, if you look at the history, President Kennedy said the same thing in the 1960s. He said to the Soviet, I don't want a Soviet base in Cuba at my doors. And the Soviet at that time decided to withdraw. But Putin said the same thing. If Ukraine is part of NATO, that means that NATO will have a base just at my doors in Ukraine, and I don't want that. We didn't listen, and I don't agree with that war. There's no reason to have a war like that. But we must understand the position of the Russian government. And we must give what they gave us a couple of years ago. No Soviet base in Cuba. Why not saying to Putin, Ukraine won't have and it won't be part of NATO? That was part of the discussion before, and that's still part of the discussion, the diplomatic discussion. A way to, I believe, it's the only way to end that war. It's a tragic war, but the media here in Canada are only focusing on Ukraine and not, they're not giving us, I believe, a balanced approach of that conflict. So it's when you have the media working with government, that's easy to influence a population. But that's why, I'm doing a lot of, I'm very present on social media. I'm doing a lot of interview with you, with other YouTubers, to be up there, to try to have more visibility, to tell people, go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, look at our platform, look at our policies. If you like that, I hope you'll support us at the next general election. If not, just don't vote for us because we won't change.
Right. Definitely. And I love how you take a bigger approach, like a larger approach, looking at all angles, because you're definitely right in the sense of the Ukraine example. It's the same thing in the United States. You hear one perspective, one side of the story, but nobody asks the question in the mainstream circles. Well, what was it that actually caused this? What is Putin's demands? And it's very simple. It's very in the answer to peace, which is what we should really all be striving for. If you ask anybody on either side if what they want, it would be peace, right? It would be a peaceful resolution. And that can only come when we hear the full story. But the media will fuel the flames of war and the military conflict because it sells, it makes money, and that's always going to be the story. So Maxime, I know we're running close on time here. I wanted to end a final question to sort of look at the PPC vision of the future. I mean, I know you said you have another general election coming up within the next few years. And, with the ideals and the goals that we've talked about and a lot of the things that you outlined, how do you continue to create that vision moving forward, even though you don't have a political majority at the moment? What are your thoughts on really crafting that vision and creating the PPC model for the people of Canada and what you expect going forward? I mean, I would personally, if I were in your shoes, I'd be feeling very optimistic because I feel very optimistic about the future of PPC and freedom in general. So I would love to hear your take on that as well.
Yeah, I believe that we can grow our movement. And the good news for us, because of Justin Trudeau and the NDP signed an agreement together, so Justin will be able to stay in power for another 3 years. That's sad for the country because we'll have more socialism and more spending and more big government. But that being said, for us as a political party, we have 3 years to be ready for the next election. And I believe we will be ready. Our goal is to have a candidate in every riding in Canada to give the opportunity to every Canadian to be able to vote for their values, for what they believe in. So, and I'm looking to the future. We are in a kind of an economic crisis right now with the inflation, and we may be in a recession. We don't know. It would be very tough for Canadians and also for Americans. But that being said, when the time are tough and are difficult, actually people may look for another alternative. And as a political party, we are the only alternative against these elites, politicians and establishment politicians. So if they want to have a real changes and bold reforms, we are there and we have the solution for that. And in our platform on different issues that are important for Canadians, I believe that we have the best vision. We believe in this country in a radical decentralization, more freedom, less government, lower taxes, a balanced budget. So maybe at the next election, I believe that we'll be able to have some candidates elected, starting by myself. I will work very hard to be back in Parliament. And you just need one voice in Parliament. And if we have a minority government, the influence of the PPC will be there. Look, the NDP, because of their agreement with Justin Trudeau, they're able to push their socialist agenda. So if we have a couple of candidates elected in a minority government, I can tell you that we will always speak for what we believe, we openly, with passion and conviction. And I believe that we may have good success there. So, but right now, what I'm asking people, if you like what we are saying, be a member of the party, donate to us, help us to build that organization across the country. And I'm optimistic for the future of the People's Party of Canada. We have good people with us. The quality, just to let you know, the quality of our candidates were very good at the last general election. We had truckers, lawyers, university professor, people coming from different backgrounds. And that was great. And, we built something. And I believe that we will have more support and will have an influence in Canadian politics after the next general election.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And I look forward to seeing that and seeing the continued growth. And I definitely would encourage any listeners, especially the ones in Canada or, even in the United States, go on, read about the values, really engage with the party. Because I think it's really grassroots work that you're doing, and it's from the ground up. So it's encouraging to see the movement of freedom grow in the way that it is. And I have no doubt that by the next election cycle, you guys will be the difference that you'll have already made. It's going to be even more profound than today, but that'll show in the election cycle. So I'm very excited to see it. And you just said you're going on the road soon. Is there anywhere that you want any listeners to look out for you if you have some places in mind?
Yeah, I will ask people to follow me on Twitter, Maxime Bernier, follow me on Instagram, follow me on YouTube, on Rumble. And, I'm starting that trip in Atlantic Canada the 30th of this month. So I'll be there and I'll travel across. My goal is to meet people. We'll do a meet and greet and also to be sure to build our organization in Atlantic Canada, our riding associations in different ridings. So, and also to find candidates to be ready for the next election, because we want to approve our candidates as soon as possible. like that, they will have more time to work in their riding, to be ready for the next election, to be known in their riding as the candidate for the People's Party of Canada. So that would be an important road trip. And as you know, after that, I hope that during the summer, I'll be able to travel by plane. So I don't know if I'm not able to travel by plane, I will find a way to be in Western Canada during the summer and doing the same thing, meeting our people, building the party, being ready for the next election.
Wonderful. Well, if you can't fly, at least summertime is the time to be taking a road trip and driving across Canada. You don't want to deal with the blizzards and the snow. So
Yeah,
awesome. So it was wonderful to chat, Maxime. I'm really excited that we got to have this conversation, and I look forward to seeing the continued success. And I'll be sure to send this your way once I put it on out there.
Thank you very much, and let's stay in touch. And I appreciate what you're doing, and we are fighting for more freedom and less government. I believe we can win that fight, but we have to be vigilant. We have to not be afraid of speaking about what we believe. And it's only one by one person speaking to another one. And that's why I'm on the road also. I want to speak to people and telling them, we are there for them. And so we will building something special in this country. But I appreciate your support, and I appreciate the fact that you had me. That was a nice opportunity. Thank you very much.
No, absolutely. The pleasure's all mine. And I think we're already winning the fight just based on the momentum. So I'll just keep moving onward.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Max.
Bye-bye.
Bye.